Hey everybody, Mike here. So I want to go over this little digital clamp meter that I've had for about 4 years now. This is the Klein and it's a model number CL800. I did not use this much at first, the first couple years I owned it, but the last couple years I've actually got this out and played with it a little more. And main reason is I've always been a big Fluke 87 guy. I've had this thing since I was in college, like 15 years ago. And this has always been my go-to meter. So I got a buddy that urged me to put a little more effort into this clamp meter and learn how to use it. And I gotta say, after I've used this now and actually got a handle of what it does, this is quickly becoming my go-to meter, whereas I don't think that it'll ever completely replace my 87 that I've been using for years. But this one's got a lot more versatility to it. It's really compact, and there's so much you can do with this thing. I can definitely see why this is becoming more of an all-in-one meter this day and age. So let's go over a few features on this thing. First off, it comes in this nice little carrying case. And with this case, it'll come with a set of leads, and then your adapter to your temperature lead. And then you can also pick up this little line splitter here, and I'll explain this here in just a minute. This is actually capable of doing AC, DC, amperage. It's got your resistance, continuity, and diode checker, hertz, as low as capacitance and low impedance, which I don't use the top two too often, but if you're a guy that's into like refrigeration or AC type stuff, I can definitely see where those two functions will come into play. Now on the side here, you've got a hold button, and what that'll do is it actually illuminates your screen, as well as has a little light here for any kind of low light settings you might be working in, and then you got your clamp on top. Now just to kind of give you a little brief overlay of how this works, on the bottom here is where you plug your leads in, which is just like any other multimeter you'd have. You've got these caps here that you can pop off. For sake of example, I'll just use my extension cord. If I plug these into the extension cord on the hot and neutral here, you can see we got 123 volts here at the plug. When it comes to measuring your amperage, because you've got your hot and your neutral both within the same cord here, you can't just put your clamp over and measure your amperage. Now, if you've got access to like just the one wire on the inside of like an electrical box, you could clamp around the one wire and get a reading, but that's where this line splitter comes in. So what this does, it'll plug into your outlet, and then that splits out your hot and your neutral wires. Now this is a 10x multiplier, so you got to keep that in mind. But what we'll do here is I'll plug in, I've got a shop vac right next to me. I'll plug that into here and then put my clamp meter on here. And when I do so, I'll put this on amperage so I can get a current reading. Turn on my vacuum. And with that vacuum on, I was getting right at 80 on the reading. So we have to 10x that, so divide by 10, that's 8 amps. So I've got 8 amps of draw coming off this vacuum. So that's a really cool feature. Whether it be you're trying to find a load for a breaker or a circuit you're trying to run in the house, make sure you're not overloading that circuit. You can use your clamp meter with your line splitter here, and you can get a good reading as to what that'll do. Now, another cool thing, if you do any kind of electronic stuff, this is a diode. You can actually switch this over to Diode Checker, which is your resistance reading here. And then if you hit your select button on that twice, that'll put you in the diode mode. And then you can test across your diode and see if you've got a good diode or not. So in this case, I do. But if I switch it the other direction, it reads OL, which tells me that this diode is still good. Now, another neat feature about this is at the top here, you've got a voltage detector, which essentially take the place of something like this, where if you stick this on your outlet, it'll tell you that that's a live outlet there. But this will actually do the same thing, whereas this won't actually give you an audible sound, but it gives you a visual. There's a little light right here at the top. So if you hold down on, and you could be in any of these selections right here, but if you hold down on the NCV button and bring this up to your outlet, that little red light will illuminate right there, letting you know this has got live power going to it. So essentially you could take more than one meter and more than one tool and combine them all down into one handy tool that you can carry with you. So another thing I'll show you here is this lead here will plug into the bottom. Let's just say you're wanting to see what the temperature in your house is. Switch this over to Fahrenheit or Celsius, and then you'll see once that fluctuates and gets down, it'll tell you what your room temperature is. So I've got ambient air temperature on the screen right now. But you can also use this by just sticking it into the vent of your car, and you can see what the AC or heat's blowing at inside the vent. If you are in the house and try to check room temperature, that's just another way to check temperature. The other thing you can do with this is because it reads DC, you can actually go out to your vehicle and you can check your battery voltage to make sure you've got a good battery. But you can also clamp this around your alternator wire if you have access to it and start your vehicle up, and that'll tell you what the DC voltage reading is of your alternator to let you know if it's running above 14 volts and charging your system or not. In the house, in the shop, on your vehicle, this would be a great meter for you to have. For electrical work in the house, just try to figure out amperage or just try to diagnose the electrical circuit within your vehicle. I've quickly become a believer in this meter. It's got 1,000,001 different uses, guys.